Okay, yeah, so I'm at home instead of my office today, so lighting's terrible, whatever, but we are going to make this work. Well, it's probably because I have a hat on. Also something I need to tackle today. Um, so 10 weeks of business planning or prepping for the new year. I'm going to do week 3, week 4, because I'm not sure everybody got the gist of what I was trying to say in week 3. Because I didn't go into a lot of detail. Things have been hectic. But I put out a poll asking what platforms you use to promote your business. I think I talked about the big 5, I guess, in my eyes. I don't keep up with social media from a social standpoint. So there might be more. There might be ways that you can utilize. I learned about TikTok the other day. There was another one. Triller? I don't know if those are relevant to business, but they could be options. But I was speaking of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. Did I put LinkedIn on there? I don't know what the 5th one was. But the larger platforms that like kind of everybody thinks about when it comes to business. So a lot of you said like 2 or 3. Some people said all 5 or whatever the 5th one was. And then I put out another poll asking, out of the ones that you chose, how many are you using and using well? And that's the issue. So we hear in a lot of these conversations about business and promoting and all this kind of stuff that people's biggest struggles lie in posting and posting consistently and getting everything scheduled and blah, blah, blah. But I think if we go back to the root, we're trying to focus on all 5 or all 3 or whatever, and then you're spreading yourself thin across however many you're using, and not really sticking to one very well. So if there's one that's more convenient for your lifestyle or that's more relevant to your target audience, things like that, or your industry, how about just trying to do that one super well? Like, let's just focus on that one. So like for me, I'm pretty okay at using, at least for what I feel like is consistent enough for me, using Instagram and Facebook. Twitter was always, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter were always my big 3. Needed to promote all of those platforms. But Twitter, it's a different, even though a lot of people in my industries are there and they do promote very well there. I get a lot of my designer friends are mostly on Twitter. But the platform is just different. And I've been using Twitter, like, I'm gonna be real, I've been using Twitter since 2009. Don't scroll back to the beginning of my Twitter feed, please. I have made it a task before the end of this year to clean that up. But Twitter has always been like my venting area. At what point I decided to make that a mandatory part of my promotion strategy, I don't know. It hasn't worked. People don't, not to say people follow me on Twitter for a certain reason. Like I said, a lot of my designer friends or people in the industry that I look up to are on there, and I still talk about work. But it just doesn't work for me in a work setting. Like, that's where I go to get away from work. And I know people, you can do that on Instagram and Facebook. Obviously on Instagram with my stories, a little more personal. Facebook, I'm just laughing at all the foolishness all day. But for whatever reason, Twitter just doesn't work the same way for me. I can't really do both very well. At least not for the, like, if I was a person that blogged a lot or something like that, or I'm sending out links and short blurbs, like that type of stuff, I do still put on Twitter, but more for my personal brand, not really for artistry studios. So I want to say it was at the beginning of this year, I realized, like, I fell back into the habit of whatever I posted on Instagram or Facebook, I posted on Twitter as well, obviously modified because the character limit is different. The way pictures show up is different. But I'm like, why am I doing all this extra work? Nobody pays any attention to my work on Twitter. It's just not what people are there for. For me, at least. It just hasn't worked for me. And maybe because it's just, it just doesn't feel the same for the type of work that I'm showing off. So earlier this year, I'm like, stop. Why are you doing it? Why are you putting all this extra effort into making a different caption that works for Twitter, cropping the photo differently so that it, fits Twitter dimensions? And then I realized that because I'm behind in the social media times, I use a third-party Twitter thing, aggregator, I want to call it, called TweetDeck, because that's what I used at one of my previous jobs when I ran a Twitter chat, and it allows you to see like a lot of different feeds at the same time. Apparently what I see on there is not how you see it on the regular app. So I'm like, I'm doing all this work to like, make it fit a certain dimension or whatever, and then I'm looking at it on my phone and I'm like, that didn't quite translate. So I was doing a lot of extra work for a platform that just was not working for me. Boom, back to the to the point. Focus on one or two of those platforms and do those well. Instagram, cool, I could do that. Even Facebook, especially now with, I don't know if you guys are using Facebook's Creator Studio. I can post all of my Facebook accounts and all of my Instagram accounts for free without having to pay for it. I was paying for later, especially when I decided to like make my personal brand a bigger thing, because I'm like, okay, how am I gonna post to Instagram, like 3 different Facebook pages, all of that, and that works. So now that I've cut out Twitter, and Twitter is not really a part of my business promotion strategy, I can do everything I need to do from Creator Studio. And narrowing down that focus has made me feel a lot better. I'm like, let's work. I can go on Facebook, business Facebook, and schedule all that stuff out. And those things perform way better. And I'm not taking up all this extra time trying to promote on a platform that hasn't been working for me. Now, if I wanted to, which is something I'm exploring for the next year, is figuring out how I can replace Twitter with LinkedIn as a business promotion strategy. LinkedIn is popping out here right now. I guess it always has been, and I used to be really, really big on like checking LinkedIn and stuff like that, but I guess I was kind of still in the searching for like contract jobs, and I kind of got out of that mindset, so I haven't used it as much lately. But I think it's still a good place to promote the same way that I kind of do on Facebook. Excuse me. So now that I'm like, okay, cool, I kind of got the rhythm of what I want to do with Facebook and Instagram, now I can introduce another platform to my promotion strategy. So that was the gist of week 3. Week 4, I wanted to talk about, why would I leave my piece of paper all the way across the room? Promotion strategies. Oh, prep your online presence. Okay. So now that we have narrowed down, hopefully, y'all write in the comments which ones you think you're going to focus on in the new year. And not because it's popular or not because that's where you have your most followers. If you have 1,000 followers on Instagram and ain't none of them buying nothing, it does not matter. So if you feel like your people on Facebook, even though it might only be like 100 there, but if you feel like they're rocking with you harder, they're buying things, they're showing up to events and stuff like that, focus on them. Obviously your people are on Facebook. Build that up. You don't necessarily have to neglect Instagram, but if we only have so much to give, let's give it in the areas that are going to benefit us and our audience more. Jesus, I get so distracted. Prep your online presence. Okay, so now that we've chosen which one of those or 2 of those or even 3 of those that we're going to focus on, let's figure out where else online we're gonna be. And I'm saying that without at least attempting to say that without pressuring people into the conversation of you do need a website or you don't. Now, I will firmly stand on the belief that you do. I think it's a matter of what needs to be there. Obviously, I build websites for a living. So I could be a little partial to having one. But I also study strategy and automation. And I have not found a way that most businesses can operate in an effective and like just enjoyable way if you don't have one. Your website is not just a place where you, let me back up. Depending on your industry, again, everybody needs a website. It just depends on what you need it to do for you. And for most of us, if I'm thinking about the people who are the most active in the group that I'm used to talking to about what you guys do, it's a waste of money if you are just using your website to simply show off your work, portfolio style. At least thinking of most of you that I talk to on a regular basis. It's a waste of money if you are simply using your website in a manner of a portfolio. Why? Because I know for a fact that all of you are promoting your work on social media. So if you're promoting your work on social media and you're showing your work there, people can see it, people can easily look you up. We're going to talk about the prepping handle names and stuff like that in a second. And then you're putting a link to your website on the graphic, or you got your link in the bio. They're going to your website and see the same thing. Your website needs to capture those leads. Your website needs to sell your products or your services without you having to do much, depending on the industry. Again, it was really confusing for me at first. So I've had a website for a long time. I started out on Weebly, probably back in like 2010, maybe, when I first decided that Ashlee Nicole Artistry was a thing. I was just a photographer, so I definitely needed a portfolio website. Self-taught, had never had a photography class, still haven't. So I'm like, I gotta have somewhere to send people to see stuff so that they can believe that I can do this. Over the years, I couldn't wrap my mind around having my website sell services or photo packages or book clients, or book photo sessions without me having to talk to them, interact with them, all that kind of stuff. Now there are still pieces that obviously I have to be a saleswoman, interact with people. I have to pick up the phone every now and then, regardless if I want to. But I never thought that there would be like pieces on the internet that I could implement that would actually help me, so that when I do pick up the phone, I know that I'm talking to the right type of person, the right type of client, things like that. So if your website is not doing those things for you, I capture so much information on my website about the lead's business, what they're interested in, all types of information before I even give them the option to hop on the phone with me. Think about how many more gigs, clients, sales, whatever you would get if it didn't rely on you having to have the time to manually respond to the email, to manually send out a link to your booking calendar, to manually send a print portfolio or what have you. If your website is not working, I look at my website as my employee. I pay. We can be pretty candid. I use Squarespace for my main website. So theartiststudios.com is on Squarespace. I couldn't even calculate how much time I put into coding and graphics and all that kind of stuff. Like, I would probably be my highest paying client for myself. But I use the highest package on there, so that's $46 a month. I have 2 domains pointed to that website just because I've changed my business name over the last year or so. Or not even know, I've been using both names for a long time, and now I'm just kind of slowly moving people to Artistry Studios. So I have 2 domains connected to that website, each costing about $12 a year. Those that know me know I own about 60 different domains, not all of them are in use. But what are the other expenses of a website? I have Acuity hooked up to the website. I use Dubsado as my client management system. That's about $30 a month, $35 if I'm not mistaken. All these things that go into me having a website, right? If I'm spending all this money on this website, it better be making me money. It better not just be sitting there to look pretty. Like, I spent I got to the point now that I don't touch my website as much, because I used to be really into the aesthetic of it. And now I think that was because obviously I'm a visual person. Like, I care about graphics and things like that. But I think it was also like out of this insecurity that like, oh, like nobody's like going to my website. They aren't going to obviously it was a strategy thing, but I was playing with the aesthetic of it because I felt like the website wasn't working for me. But now that like my website is like my assistant and it captures so much information for me, it books my freaking calls for me, excuse me, it sells packages, like all of these things that it does. Honestly, I don't care what it looks like, because people are finding, I do care what it looks like, but I care less because people are finding what they need and they're able to get to me, or I'm able to get to them because of the information that the website is able to capture. I got really into that. But prepping your online presence. Okay, so if we are deciding that we're choosing 2 social media platforms and a website, let's make all of that uniform. So before, I was by Ashlee Nicole on all social media platforms. I still am. But now that my business, so before it was Ashlee Nicole Artistry, so people were able to connect the Ashlee Nicole and my social profiles to the company name, right? So now that I'm kind of like not stepping back as the face, because that seems impossible at this point, but I'm planning for scaling, that it's Artistry Studios. What sense did it make to, obviously I built Instagram, maybe 3,000 followers. I don't know. Something like that. And for me, a person who like doesn't like to be the face or like in the mix or whatever, I'm like, at first I was like, dang, it took me this long to get to 3,000 followers. I'm not about to just change my name or like change the strategy or whatever, and then people are confused and somebody might unfollow me, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, who said that? Because I kind of wish some of these people would go away. No, it doesn't matter, because if I'm not serving them the right information from that page, then it's best that they move, or I move them to a place where it all makes sense. So now that I'm like building up my personal brand a little bit more, all of that obviously stays as by Ashlee Nicole. But I have made at least the ones that I want to focus on, Instagram and Facebook, social accounts for those that match my business name. So there was no reason to have by Ashlee Nicole as my social platforms, and then they're going to the artistrystudios.com. And then like once I do pull back as like the main face or whatever, that's gonna create brand confusion. So do all of your social profiles match? Do they make sense? Is it easy to find you? You have searchable hashtags? Do you have searchable keywords? Think about like the way your clients talk about your services, the way they address you, things like that, and see how you can like pull out those memorable things. So I didn't just come up with let Ashlee brand you out of nowhere. People started saying that on Facebook, and I'm like, and my name is pretty common. So that's been an issue. People spell Nicole wrong, so that's been an issue. So like that hashtag has worked for me. And now like using it as a catchphrase type thing, that sounds stupid. Catchphrase? Why would I have a catchphrase? But you know, it helps. It stands out. It grabs people's attention. Right now, I made a pop-up banner. I don't think anybody has seen it yet. I'm gonna use it probably for the first time at Girlpreneur. But the pop-up banner sits in the window of my office right now, and people stop and just stare at it. And they're not staring at my face. My face is on there. They're like, I hear people read it out loud. Let Ashlee brand you. Then they peek in and they be like, what that mean? And then now I've started a conversation because I'm not a talker naturally, even though it's already been 20 minutes on this video. But these are 2 weeks put together. Usually they was around like 10 minutes each. So yeah, what can you do that's like that? Also, for me, and I tell people this all the time, though I make logos for a living, if you are caught up on that, there might be a deeper problem. I hardly ever use, the logo that I use that you guys know and you've seen is literally named on my computer temporary logo. Because I could not decide what I wanted it to look like. I could not decide, like I wanted it, you know, to feel corporate, but not too corporate. And I didn't want it to be cheesy. I didn't want to use like a script font because that's too girly. It was just all these things that like went back and forth. And I know y'all know that you can do things very well for other people. And it's just sometimes hard to do it for yourself. So I made that when I updated my website the last time, which is probably about 2 years ago now. So it's been temporary for 2 years. But guess what? It does not, having a logo, temporary, permanent, whatever, has not stopped me from making money. So I'm not going to spend hours figuring out what I want it to look like. I might eventually, more for like my peace of mind. But is there something else that you can use? Like, even if your logo is, you made it in Canva, text-based, super simple, cool. All people need to know is, like, who, what, when, where, why, right? What if there was something else that you can do to stand out? What if it was that, for me, most of the time, it's the color yellow. I'd love to say that that was intentional in the manner that it has worked. But it was not intentional in that way. It was intentional for me to choose yellow, but it wasn't, I had never thought that that was going to be like this whole big thing. And obviously yellow is not a special color. Other people use yellow. It's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain that. It's just something that was intentional in the meaning and the reason that I chose it. And I guess that intention picked up, you know? So I'm not saying if you choose gray, it's gonna pop. Like, I don't know what the science is there. But is there something else? Is it a pattern that you use? Is it a phrase that you use? Is it an icon that you use? Like, something else that can help you stand out. I don't want you to harp on those things, but I also want you to realize that it's not always a logo. It's not always having a big fancy website with all the parallax scrolling and the overlapping images and stuff. Yeah, those are cute, but does it function? So whatever you choose going into the new year to be your online presence, your aesthetic, an aesthetic is a piece of the online presence. Make sure that it's intentional. What is this? So confused. Was that sitting there the whole time? What did I use this for? Anyway, okay, so aesthetic is the one piece. Tone, I kind of talked about phrases already. Is there a phrase or something that you can use that kind of makes you stand out? Is there something different that you do? But going back to, I don't know if it was week 1 or 2, but limiting your services or slimming them down a little bit, make sure that all of this is where you make sure it all makes sense. How do you say it? So you built your packages, you decided what you're going to sell, and how you're going to serve. And the online presence and the delivery of your tone, your phrases, whether you're super corporate, whether you use we or I, or whether the tone is more fun and hip or what have you. What was I talking about? I don't really have a problem. I need to go take a nap. All of those things matter basically in your online presence. How you are going to talk about these packages and service, how you deliver them, is what we're focusing on here now. So in my move from Ashlee Nicole Artistry to Artistry Studios, I use more we. Over the last 2 years, there has been a we. Like, obviously Terry is with me. I had Sherelle helping out on some things here and there. Right now it's just me, but I'm still using we. And one, it's a psychological thing. Like, I'm in the process of scaling. We talk about speaking things into existence, things like that. But I'm also like super goofy in it, as we is my invisible studio manager. We is me and my website. Me and Dubsado. Those services, those systems that I've put in place, them my homies. Like, we doing this together. So the choice of using we and sounding like a bigger agency than I am is intentional, but it's also thinking ahead of scaling, so that I'm not just so that it's easier for me to kind of like pivot when I need to. What else? Deciding what am I trying to say? Like, again, whether you're going to be a super serious brand or more relaxed and casual. Obviously, I'm probably way more relaxed and casual than I come off online, because it's more of I'm talking to a general group of people. But as you build like your tribe, like your community, we gonna get more of this. I don't really I try not to be like a cursing sailor, but I don't shy away from, using profanity or whatever, because I don't see my brand as something like super serious and corporate. I don't really work with a lot of corporate clients. Maybe one day. I don't say I don't want to, but it just hasn't been part of the thing. So those are things that I want you to think about with your online presence. Where do you show up? Why are you showing up there? How are you going to show up when you get there, like visually and verbally? And who shows up? Are you the face? Is it just a floating business? I think, okay, so this is the last thing I'm going to say, because Jesus Christ, I've been talking for a long time. But I noticed that when I talk to people, one of the biggest struggles they're having with showing up online is that I don't want to be the face. I don't want to be at the forefront of the business, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you, you are preaching to the choir, because I was against it. Just because of the way my personality is. But I will say that I won't say I was forced out of it, but when you realize that strategy is everything, you're gonna do some things that you thought were hard, and it'd be like, well, that was worth it. And not in a sleazy way, but in the sense of that most people are saying that they don't want to be the face of the business because of some physical insecurity. And sis, like, I got them, all of them. I believe I'm planning my photo shoot for next year, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll like switch up photographers or whatever. you know, just to try to work with new people or whatever. But I'm like, Mina has been the only person that's ever made me look good. Like, everybody has those insecurities, and people are staring at you. But guess what else? If you think about people that seem kind of larger than life right now, they're just kind of killing it, making money with their businesses, blah blah blah. People like Jeff Bezos. We didn't know who he was until he started cheating on his wife, or whatever that situation was. I don't really follow celebrity news, but we can't, for whatever reason, the general public cares about the person that's running the business. And I should probably go figure out why my alarm is going off. But people care, and if you're shying away from that, it seems shady. I'm not saying put everything out there. You still decide what you are going to say, what you're not going to say, what you're going to show, what you're not going to show. But I challenge you to show up a little bit more on a personal level and see how it works for you. So prepping your online presence, make sure you know where, why, when, and how you're going to show up online, on what platforms, and platforms that are working for you and not just what you think you should be doing. Let me know if any of that makes sense, y'all. I'm gonna go finish my coffee. Yes, it is noon, but I worked super late last night and slept in a little bit. So let me know if that makes sense. If you have any specific questions about prepping your online presence, or any questions about any of the decisions I made about my online presence. I don't know. If you see anything I've done online and you want to ask why or how, or pretty sure it's not a complicated how. But just ask. Let me know. Or if there's anything that you guys have done or decisions you've made about your online presence that you want to share that might help somebody else, feel free to do that as well. Talk to you next week.